Good morning. I'm Natalia Karhapolsova. I'm representative of the community of servicemen families, and today we are discussing impact of protracted combat stress and service terms uncertainty on effectiveness and motivation of personnel in work conditions. I would like to present our today's participants. We have Alexander Kolesnichenko, leader of NGO Therapy of Win. Also, we have participant of combat activities with the nickname Bushi. Later, we will be joined by Andriy Zholov, a orthopedist, traumatologist from the Lviv Center of Services to Combat Participants of Combatant activities. Now I would like to describe the problem based on our surveys and research. I would like to start with the definition. What does combat stress means? This is a psychological reaction on extreme situations which become manifested among personnel in course of combat. Actually, this is the stress of all the systems of human body. All the surveys and research of combat stress carried out by Snetkov suggests that after 6 months of combat activities and participation in combat activities, 20% of combatants show mobilization, while 22 with something percent show continuous adaptation. After 1 year of participation in combat activities, only minor part of participants preserve their capacity to stay mobilized, and only while 69% show all the signs of social disadaptation.
Складу зберігають ці адаптивні
83% of personnel after 18 months demonstrate all the signs of social disadaptation. Social disadaptation result in decreased concentration and focusing, inability to adapt and inability to respond to the combat conditions and situation, and this personnel becomes rather inefficient. Then combat trauma may result in total ineffectiveness and is dependent on a protracted stay in the combat area. The continuity of stay in combat activities may decrease the motivation considerably. Deputy commander of a battalion in psychological issues suggested that after 18 months of stay in service, in participation in combat activity, the morals of personnel had dropped considerably because of uncertainty about the period of service. And one of the female combatants of the Da Vinci Wolves unit suggested that she is not motivated to serve any longer because of the unknown period of service, and another female combatant suggested that demobilization would be an image of positive and successful combatant. What does this mean? This means that our mass media are full of stories about those who were injured, who suffered much, who survived through personal tragedies, while we require a positive image of a veteran who comes back from the combat and continues to serve and live a normal life. Another combatant has written, nobody takes care how long our combatants would stay at the front line, and this says tremendously dangerous because this will increase the combat stress. That is, this suggests that effectiveness and morals of combatants depend directly on the term of their service at the front line. Then, rehabilitation of combatants who arrive to the status of completely exhausted humans is next to impossible, and this becomes extremely expensive. Treatment of injury in result of combat activities amounts to 33 days and takes up to 33,000 and takes up to 21 days. Besides physical rehabilitation, the combatants coming back from combat activities before going to a peaceful life, they should pass through the period of decompression, so-called. In order to finalize this stage of rehabilitation, they require the treatment and work with specialists. The longer they stay at the contact line in the combat conditions, the longer it will take to rehabilitate them in this period of decompression. When we think about the number of rehabilitation centers, one may think that the number of centers will resolve the problem. When we look at the construction of rehabilitation centers, a construction of one such center amounts to 400 million hryvnia, and it can provide services to less than 1% of combatants per year. Also, we can look at the forecast of load on mental health system for delivery of psychological and psychiatric services. Since 2022, request for the services of this service had doubled. Of course, this includes civilian requests, but with the continuation of war, we may expect that the requests from the military, from servicemen, will grow up, and we can prevent that sharp increase in demand for the mental health treatment services considerably by withdrawal of personnel from the contact line by demobilization after some period. Besides psychological rehabilitation, many servicemen suffer from the explosion shocks and results negative impact of that explosion shocks on the human body results in very negative impact on blood vessel system, on heart system of the body. Thus, accumulation of psychological impact added with this negative impact of negative cardiovascular impacts on servicemen, on veterans, will result in a huge wave of patients that our healthcare system would not cope with. Then continuous service results in hyper blood pressure, in disorders of digestion, gut functioning, etc. Prevention to such an overload of healthcare system could be done through the clear limitation of the military and service terms and periods for the mobilized combatants, mobilized soldiers. Thank you very much for raising up this issue. This is an extremely important issue. A year ago, we had no answer to that question, absolutely, and as of today, I do not see any attempts to find a solution to it. We all understand that decision what psychological assistance could be provided to Ukrainian services could not be taken immediately, and of course we today try to do what we try to do what we had to do a year ago. Actually, we would not be able to build up sufficient numbers of rehabilitation centers. It seems to me that almost 1 million people are now involved into the Ukrainian defense forces, and I cannot imagine how all that huge amount of people could be offered sufficient number of rehabilitation services. This suggests that the issue that you suggested to raise today about the definite and limited period for service is very important, and because when we discuss, we can say to people, we will serve at the contact line for this or that period, then we will be rotated, and we will be given sufficient period of time for rehabilitation, and then we will go back to our units. And my communication with the Ukrainian servicemen shows that those combatants, those servicemen who undergo treatment in the hospitals after injury or wounds, they even staying in the hospital, they are dreaming to go back to their comrades, to their fellows at the contact line, to go back to their military units. And this shows that this becomes even additional motivation. This is for the first time when we look at such a war in Europe with one of the most powerful armies in the world, with huge human resources, with almost endless military equipment and stock of airplanes, tanks, armored vehicles and artillery, etc. In these conditions, we have to take care about Ukrainian servicemen. We should raise the issue how we can take care about Ukrainian combatants to allow them to stay motivated, to prevent a situation when motivation at some moment when your motivation drops almost to zero, it shrinks almost to zero because of stress, because of negative situation at the front line, because of all that shocks to which you become exposed at the contact line. That's why to preserve motivation, it is so important. Not only discipline, but motivation is also very important. In order to do this, we should offer psychological support, we should offer physical support, and allow people to stay well balanced psychologically and to stay highly motivated to fight. And these are the issues to which our organization is involved, and we involve psychiatrists, psychologists who organize mobile brigades, mobile teams which travel along the contact line and offer psychological and even psychiatric assistance to combatants along the contact line. Our servicemen and servicewomen, women, they want to know for how long they will stay in the army at the contact line. When there is uncertainty, people are not motivated further because they do not see any perspective for the future. I believe that today's discussion will make a step forward towards bringing this topic into the top list of top priority topics on the agenda. This is as equal as discussing the military equipment for Ukrainian servicemen at the contact line. Thank you. I would like to ask a question. How, in result of combat stress, there is a combat fatigue, which prevents efficient actions, operational activity in combat situation, and then sleeping disorders, psychological disorders, etc. Did you observe that in your research, and observation over combatants in relation, independence with the service period at the contact line. Of course, it is not so easy to produce it in general terms, to describe it in general terms, but I fully agree with you. The problems with sleeping, and by the way, I can provide an example, recent example. My friends and I have a check or examination to test whether veteran is under impact of combat stress. I ask a combatant to give me a cup of coffee in a coffee shop, and this tremor in hands, it shows that his mind and all his systems are under the impact of stress, and the stronger is this tremor in hands, the deeper this negative psychiatric and psychological impact is, and the more specialists and experts you will need to rehabilitate such a soldier and to make this help efficiently. And those veterans who come back from contact line, they should be brought to sufficient psychological condition to become full members of civil society, even becoming military instructors, etc. When I see statistics, it seems to me that the figures showed there's a light version of reality which I observe. So your conclusion is that it gets worse in time. Now I'm pleased to give the floor to our next interlocutor, to Bushi. I hope I pronounced it correctly. Good morning. We are listening to you. Yes, we can hear you.
Dujaki for letting me speak. Yeah, I'm just here today to talk about some of the things. I'm a former member of GOR, and I'm just here to talk about some of the issues that we've seen due to the lack of terms of service and some of the benefits too. So me and my guys, we've served over the years with Ukrainians, 65th Mechanized, other Ukrainian units, and we've seen, unfortunately, some of the circumstances that come with lack of service, lack of terms of service. In GOR, it is a bit different. We generally do have contracts, and I would definitely advocate for a contract system, as it definitely helps. In one case, one team in GOR, for example, they had a very high standard, which was that if a soldier could decide in his contract if he didn't want to go into an attack, he didn't have to go. Now, what this does is it creates a much more professional culture and a much more high-quality soldier, because you can tell if soldiers don't want to be there or not, or if they don't want to continue an attack. So that is a very good standard. Now, those contracts, unfortunately, aren't always enforced or honoured, but generally they are a very good thing. In the West, in other Western armies, we also generally have usually in the Australian Army, it's six months for deployment, and in the US it can be up to 12 months. Both, however, generally have a period of R&R or downtime to help soldiers recover. That's very important because in that time you need to be able to tell if someone's maybe having some mental problems or having issues, or after a single engagement in Ukraine, a single artillery bombardment, you can become combat ineffective just simply through TBI, nerve damage, stress like that. And so if you're not taking people offline and giving them time to rest, recover, they're not going to perform as well, and they're going to go into battle, unprepared. And so that's a huge issue that we've experienced. But I do think, I think for combat personnel, having some sort of contract that's based on deployment or operations, that would be ideal. And for people maybe not in combat roles, 6 to 12 months is what generally happens in the West. So yeah.
Дуже дякую. І хотілося би
Thank you so much. Would you describe your experience maybe in other countries or with other contracts? What was the maximal period of service in line with the contract, and what is optimal service period for combatants to stay efficient and to combat efficiently? Thank you.
So the optimal termination period, as I said, it should be based on deployment or on operation. So that way, soldiers can decide, based on their ability, how they can best, how long they can serve and they can, achieve the mission. That's the most important thing. I would say that doesn't mean that, once they can't serve in a combat unit, they stop serving. They could go to a non-combat unit or something like that, but that would be ideal. The counter-argument is often an issue of manpower. There are a number of ways to fix that, and it is doable, but that's what I would generally recommend, is that soldiers be allowed to voluntary serve for a period that suits them, that allows them to be medically removed so they're not a danger to others, and as long as there are effective accountability mechanisms in place, I think that would be a really good system that could even bring back a lot of foreigners in some cases.
Дякую вам. Так, можливо, у вас є питання до спікера нашого?
Maybe there are questions. Yeah, there will be questions to you.
Будь ласка, по-перше, дякуємо.
First of all, thank you for participation in Ukrainian war and defense. What was your feeling in your body? What was physical impact when you stay in a mission for a long time? How physically you feel it in your body? How emotionally you feel it, etc.? Can you share?
Excuse me, Ukraine чуть-чуть, my Ukraine не добре. One sec.
The question was what you feel when you stay in a mission for a long time. Can you hear me? Can you hear translation? Hello? Hello? The question was, what do you feel in your body when you stay in a mission for a long time, when you stay in combat situation for a long time? Hello? Hello? Can you hear? Can you hear translation? Hello? Hello, can you hear translation? Can you hear translation? Hello, hello. Can you hear translation? Hello. Can you hear translation? 1, 2, 3, this is translator, this is translator. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? This is Ukrainian translation. This is Ukrainian translation. Can you hear me?
But maybe you understand me. What your physical reaction when you go to the work long time? What your physical reaction?
So it's very difficult. There's psychological stress, emotional stress. You know, and that stress every day is crippling. Especially if you're being under artillery, you can, under almost a single day, if you get a bad bombardment, you can't survive. It's just not possible. You'll burn out. And we've had a lot of guys physically break down. We had a lot of guys like having mental issues, and that's with guys rotating back. So if you can imagine, you know, people being out there for years in that environment, it's and I've seen it. It doesn't make you an effective soldier. It really hurts Ukraine.
Thank you for your honest. Really, thank you. Thank you very much. Really appreciate you join this conference today. And makes a great mystery. І хотіла уточнити, чи є у нас наступний спікер?
Who is our further speaker?
Добрий день, пане Андрій. У нас на зв'язку Андрій.
Good morning, Andrei. We have Andrei Kazanchuk, psychologist and Ukrainian serviceman. Good morning, everybody. I'm not sure whether I will be able to add, because I think you said everything very truly, very correctly. As to the definite period of service, it's not the issue of ethics, morals, etc. This is a matter of survival, because people may decide to die, but this is rather inefficient. It is more efficient and more useful if servicemen come back home. They should not be just demobilized and let go home. They should be substituted with new servicemen and with new soldiers coming back. Okay, if we would not prepare sufficient number of sufficient number of human capital to come instead of the warriors. Also, there is such a thing as emotional burnout, and it is not an illness itself. It is a predecessor of illness, of disease. This is just a condition which then can turn into a serious disorder. And so when people burn out, they feel severe discomfort, and they feel themselves like they are slaves, because when people go to the army, they reject from several human rights, the freedom of movement, the freedom of personal life, etc. But when this takes a very long time, indefinite time, this becomes rather dangerous. Then there is also such an issue, the issue of commanders and those who serve in the army. They are involved into very different missions. There might be a role of an accountant in military uniform who remains in headquarters and works with bookkeeping, and this could be a combatant personnel which stays at the front line, at the contact line immediately, and there's a difference in contribution to the mission. This again contributes to the irrational psychological impact on the combat personnel, and sometimes commanders, they contribute to this imparity in situations. There might be issues with heart, with lungs, with liver systems, and there could be problems with the psychological systems. It could be very good to have a schedule of rotation for services. It would be very good to understand the schedule of stay at the contact line, just like we have a schedule of outages for our power blackouts. Without such a measure, we could not hope for the victory, and if we do not do that, we would have a situation when family members of servicemen even staying in safety in the west regions of Ukraine would also live in hell. The wives of servicemen, when they are unable to contact their husbands, they also suffer from stress when they when they cannot contact their husbands. They also start to panic. We have to set clear rules of the game, to set clear, definite periods of service, and to prepare the staff who will change, this is because they are afraid of this uncertainty and indefinite periods of service, and this is very dangerous because it splits the society between the military and those who are in the rear. And this may split the society eventually, and additionally to the sociology, which divides us additionally to the physical conditions that divide us. We again will, in the result of this approach, we will have this division into the civilian and military. When people are at the contact line for a long period of time, that motivation, the morals would drop up to 0 level and even up to negative values, but let us not allow that to happen. That is why today I encourage Ukrainians to change their attitude towards military service, towards the service in defense forces. Thank you very much for your intervention, and as a wife of a serviceman, I agree fully with you. And now my question to you, whether you observed changes in behavior of servicemen at the contact line when the servicemen stay in the army at 0 level, so to say, for a long period of time.
Через цю бойову
When because of fatigue, combat fatigue, servicemen become useless, and they even may become harmful to the units. At the beginning of full-scale invasion, we had a lot of volunteers who were highly motivated but less professional. Then they were trained, but now people lose their cognitive abilities and orientation on the combat field. Yesterday we lost a very expensive Mavic drone because of that physical disorientation, because people were on duty for 33 hours, and they simply lost orientation on site. And how does the mental fatigue impacts on your body, your psychiatric perception would be switched off when you are tired, because this is the property of human body, and you will, as a human being, you will try to save energy, and instead of running ahead and shooting, you will try to hide in a trench, to fall asleep, to save energy. And we try to raise awareness about that. We work with the lower commanders and try to raise morals, but raising morals means when soldiers understand their mission, when soldiers understand what they have to do, but not to express overall patriotism. And they should be very rational. They should not be emotional. They should be very rational. They should be very professional to assess the situation around them and to act effectively corresponding to the situation.
Красно дякую вам, пане.
Thank you very much, Andriy, to you. I also would like to give the floor to one new speaker who has joined us online.
Доброго дня, пане Андрій.
Good morning, Andriy.
Надати вам слово. У нас, на жаль, не так багато часу.
We do not have much time, unfortunately. Would you say something concisely? Can you hear me? I'm Andriy Zholob. I'm a veteran of the 46th Air Mobile Brigade. I commanded of medical and evacuation company. I all the time stayed with my personnel, and I was able to follow very closely my people and observe how that protracted stress impacted them. The work of combat medical servicemen is very emotional because you deal with injured people, with pieces of human being, and you continuously work with the parts of human bodies, and you have your own family problems, not all the families, they remain remain together. Many families split in result of that process. Almost every day I experience a situation. Andriy, can we discuss something? And I had to speak to people tete-a-tete and discuss personal problems which people had in their family life, and I had to allow those servicemen who needed to go to their families for a couple of days, and I can say that understanding for soldiers, understanding that you are here and you would stay here up to your retirement period for indefinitely long period of time, that is a dangerous feeling, and I fully agree with previous speakers. The problem is at the governmental, at the state level. When we had enrolled and conscribed huge numbers of people back in 2022, we immediately had to start preparation of reserves. Without rotation, without a possibility to change people at the contact line, all those rehabilitation centers which were planned to create, they will become barracks for the Russian troops. Those who now stay at the contact line without rotation, without a perspective to be brought back for rotation, they are in extremely difficult situation with their family lives, etc. I keep in contact with my former soldiers who now stay at the contact line. I see how they suffer from that separation from their families. They feel guilty that they are not with their families, not with their wives, not making everyday decisions with their family, although they contribute much to the defense of the country, but they do not contribute to the life of their families, and this is extremely depressive for them. Thank you for your thank you for your honest description. Thank you. We have to finish this press conference, and thank you. And eventually, I would like to address a call to the authorities, to General Staff, to the Ministry of Defense, to the Parliament, and to the President of the country. We hope that you will see this press conference, that you will watch it, and you will understand how important this issue is for Ukrainian soldiers at the contact line, and this is about justice, about a fair attitude towards those who were volunteers to the most vulnerable layers of population. The second, we should increase efficiency of the troops, which due to exhaustion of psychological and physical resource would be unable to carry out their service further. I believe that will motivate you to set clear terms, clear periods of service and limits to it. I would like to thank everybody who decided to attend today's meeting. We also invited representatives from authorities, but they have not come. I encourage you to stir up this topic in mass media unless the issue is resolved at the governmental level. Also, I would like to add that representatives of our community had compiled a petition about clear terms of service, periods of service. This petition has raised necessary number of votes, and nevertheless, within 1 month, it stays without any response from the president, which is a violation of Ukrainian regulations. We encourage the president to look at it closely. I would like to use this opportunity to thank to the families and wives of Ukrainian servicemen who stay in the rear, who continue to do their own fight, and they help themselves and continue to work for the sake of their husbands and for the sake of their families. Let's continue to fight, and we will win. With this your work, you offer good model to other families of Ukrainian servicemen, and you demonstrate to your husbands and to your families at the contact line that you are eager to support them. Thank you for this invitation. Thank you to Ukrainian Crisis Media Center for this